It wasn't until we reached the professor's place of labor when my curiosity began to stir. It was a great big castle. I dare say even the leaders of the world wouldn't have an estate of such magnitude. And how could a scientific professor of a university, albeit a prosperous one, have the keys to such a place? Even more so, he does not call this home. That he made clear to me when he asked me to accompany him to his research facility. I can only assume he had an error in his words when he used them possessively, and rather this place is owned by the government which has employed him here. After all, he is well regarded in the world of science. Regardless, such context isn't any of my concern. It's my assistance that is needed since I finished top of his class, so in the meantime my focus stems only from the tremendous opportunity. Then, as we entered the castle, my curiosity turned to bewilderment. There is no lavish interior that one would assume there to be in such a grandiose fortress. Rather, within the restraints of the castle's walls, there is nothing but utility. Metal piping protrudes from the shiny acrylic flooring and extends upwards to the 60-foot ceiling. Then it splits and leads to various rooms and hallways. What would normally be a lobby now only serves as space for this piping, almost apparent of a sewer. At its center, there is a mechanical lift part of a deep shaft that descends into a dark abyss. How many feet, maybe even miles it goes down, I can only wonder, but it appears I'm going to find out. As my thoughts were quickly interrupted by the professor.
Proceed, boy. There's no time to squander in this room. I know it's strange, and your head may spiral at its purpose, but it is at the bottom where you will find your answers. Aboard the elevator, and please, mind your step. It would be a perilous fall to such depths.
I think I nodded at that point, but it could have just been recoil from the shivering chill that went down my spine. You'd think that when I stepped on the lift and felt it immediately sway and creak that I'd listen to my gut and sprint back to the entrance. But you see, the scientific endeavor has been my dream ever since I could remember. My purpose, my calling. And if it hadn't been the way I propelled in this field, then I'd imagine, by my own doing, I would have already met a perilous fall. So I owe my life to continue the pursuit, almost as if it were a creed. And surely a lift isn't enough to trample a creed. This reasoning is why I ignored the louder creaks and heavier sway from when the professor stepped on with me. But I'd only be met with more gut-wrenching as when we started the descent, the chill from before returned. However, it didn't come from my spine, rather up from the abyssal shaft as if itself were a spine, and our presence gave shivers of its own. During this time, the professor just stared straight at the walls of the shaft. He is without a word, even a change in body language. He must have done this 1,000 times over, and we share no such instinctual fear. I needed to break the tension, so I opened room for conversation. You've yet to tell me what awaits us, sir.
My good Dimple, what awaits us is the greatest scientific discovery of the universe. Since my finding of this, it has been my only chase in life. I no longer am a professor to extend a hand and give insight to studious individuals. Rather, my role is to find others who are like-minded, and also those full of life. As my skin grows tighter around my bones, it is clear that no peer of mine can withstand the time and effort this discovery calls for. That's where you come into play. I will tell you all that is needed to prolong the necessary research, for I am inadequate to do so myself in the future, as unlike you, I don't have a long one ahead of me.
What he said sparked my intrigue. Surely, if it were true, then he would have sought after an individual in between myself and him in age. Even with my prestigious graduation at the university, such an individual would have at least 30 additional years in the field. And if this was indeed the greatest scientific discovery of all time, he wouldn't want someone who only has experience in school and self-study like myself to help him on it. Perhaps, I think, this is a test, and he awaits to see more of my behavior. Maybe it is a greater test than Studious One, and he would like to see if I am a sort of a kiss-up, gullible even, and whether I provide a strong stance of my own would be if I pass or not. After all, a scientist must be open-minded, but just as well can think for himself. Thud. We've reached the end of descent, and although I wanted to offer my conjecture to what the professor has told me, there was no time, as he already made his exit and motioned me to follow. Follow him where, I don't know, as all I can see is the beginnings of a dark and large cave. Blackness, which the dim lights barely penetrate. There's not a thing in the world that could help me imagine what was hiding in the darkness. And as the professor clicked a light switch, what the lights revealed was of the most profound. A large and somewhat empty cave, housing two large mechanical poles which extend up maybe 100 feet and leave a gap between them a third as much. There's some sort of control station in front, and as if the professor already knew what I was going to ask, he interjects. You'll see the marvels that the world has to offer, the full extent of the capabilities of science. Your head will spin, your mind encumbered. But hold your thoughts and questions, boy. A series of events will take place, and what you witness first will only be the beginning. It is what you will witness later, where you fall to your knees, where nothing in the entirety of the world could help you process it. No scientific reasoning, not even with a complete knowledge of all the religions of history, will you come to any kind of explanation. Stand witness. The professor slams down a lever, and as electricity shoots up the poles, a thin black, luminescent veil appears between them, and soon the blackness fades. It fades into us. Lost for words and completely frozen in my stance, all I can do is watch as the two mirrored people continue down the hall and aboard the lift. Then the professor presses a button and the veil fades anew. It is us. Again. Here. The professor calmly working the station and myself, frozen in my stance. I needed something. Anything to explain what I am seeing. The professor must have known such, so he interrupts my curiosity. This is a parallel universe we glimpse at. I heard of the strange theories about parallel worlds. It has been pondered about for ages, and although the possibility of it is indeed true, and I am now seeing that we can actually peer through or even affect universes other than our own, it doesn't give any leeway to the professor's prior statements, as, although a shock, I can at least comprehend such. This is the most grand accomplishment of science, but it's not at all the end of it. What was first a single universe soon became many, and then infinite, as I was able to work with the initial version of myself
and expand the horizon of our research. What I have learned and what I have seen has taken an incredible toll on my sanity. To see instances like our own, and then some completely different, not just in the way the Earth looks, but even the way us as humans appear. Some versions so far off that they wouldn't even appear human. This was still just an introduction to the whole of this discovery. Combining our minds, we were able to uncover a greater secret. Secret beyond all of reality. Be ready for what you are about to hear, for it may be concerning. What all of these universes share in common is that they exist on a singular plane of existence, another dimension, one which has no parallels of its own. In a way, it acts as a sort of limbo between the paralleled lines.
The professor presses another button, and again, the veils fades anew, but this time, nothing. Pure blackness. The professor continues.
This limbo is almost completely empty. Sure, the paralleled lines are there, but in the same way you'd draw lines on a piece of paper, that ink simply lays atop of it, and in no way affects or embed into the molecules of the paper. However, there is something else embedded. It is what triumphs everything you've just seen. This is what you will find out. So, having said that, I now need a favor from you. If you don't mind, please pull that lever on your side.
Oh, I doubt I can accept any more. I proceed with the professor's orders and hesitantly pull down the lever. But what I thought was simply going to be another fade in the veil instead was a loud and deep series of a ringing noise that sent echoing waves across the blackness. A screeching yell from the veil. Then it was whiteness. Then it was an array of colors. And then what I could only imagine and conjure up with my darkest thoughts, a pupil.
Behold, yells the professor, for it's the single existence of this limbo, the one thing hidden to all the universes, the one that knows all its secrets, the one who draws the lines. Our benevolent God,
says the professor, which to him maybe it was, but to me it was a complete horror. He was right that I wasn't ready for this revelation. What I thought would be a simple teaching is now a God from beyond known existence who stares down my soul. I can't help but quiver under its presence. Its gaze itself is enough to rip my sanity to pieces. This is not science. It is a nightmare, the embodiment of hell. My reality has been completely shattered, and now an ever-looming darkness has taken me within its grasp, a grasp that eternity itself cannot shake. Not even my own death can save me from this haunting. This is madness. I can't help but concede the all of my being. No, this just can't be. I must put an end to this deep and dark depression that has consumed me entirely. Shut it off, I yell. Shut it off, now. I grab the lever and thrust it upwards. Then, the ringing again. No, what have you done? You miserable sort. The beast behind the veil roars again. But this time, it sounds of agony. And before I can come to terms with my actions, a black spike pierced the professor and immediately pulled him into the veil. This is the moment I had dropped to my knees. I had just made the single largest mistake of my life, and seemingly the world, as now God itself has returned with an anger that it escapes limbo with, and as the God began its consumption, it spoke with me using my own thoughts. But all I could make out was, "Thank you." his gratitude, he repaid me by making it so. I was the second only thing of this limbo,